Hey everyone, so I am making a video on the Christmas Carol future puppet that I made. I realized when I was first charged with making this puppet that we needed a cool base to go off of, and after scavenging over the internet, I just was having a hard time finding something that I liked, or videos on how people have made their puppets. So I wanted to include a video here of some of the documentation on how I made our Christmas future puppet in Sugar Creek, Ohio. So I'll show a couple images along with kind of some voiceover of what we did. So starting off, we knew a couple things. So we knew that the actor had to, we didn't know what the size of the actor was going to be because this had to be built before the cast was cast. So it needed to be completely adjustable, it needed to be comfortable, it needed to not put any weight on the neck. And so that means most of the weight's going to be on the shoulders or on the hips. So came to the conclusion real quickly that getting a camping backpack frame is going to be the best route to go down. They come completely black, all the straps are done, I don't have to worry about sewing it, so it was a very easy decision to make that. So a lot of the puppet itself, the frame itself, is a black backpacking thing that I just got off of Amazon. Took the top off, took the little pins that connect the top arc to it, popped it right off, and added some aluminum framing that connects it straight up. So basically went through, sketched it all out first, what I really wanted it to look like. And once I came up with an overall silhouette that I thought looked good, I kind of came up with some rough measurements based off of my own proportions, and then kind of enhanced them a little bit. So he's going to have some longer fingers, he's going to have wider shoulders, a bigger neck, things that I thought would help enhance the creepiness of it. So and a lot of it was taking photos and filming myself walking around in it because I work by myself to see how I like the way it moves. Do I think the proportions are correct? All that kind of stuff. So this is kind of a brief shot of the mechanism inside of the puppet, so you can see what the basic material is. It's just aluminum stock that I got at any box hardware store, so flat and angle. That's just bolted together because I'm not good at TIG welding, nor can I. So bolting was the best option, and it needs to hold up. That's the other thing, is it needs to hold up longevity-wise over a fair amount of time. So the mask itself is actually based out of a Luan material that's just kind of bolted onto a piece that hangs over the actor's head to make it look like the creature's, a little hunched over, been a little wear for time, and I wanted to give him some upright shoulders, some tension, really embellish the features of this character. So lots of photos were taken of me kind of just standing there, seeing how the proportions looked, and then some videos as well of how I think it looks. The shoulders are actually food covers from Dollar Tree. Everything's kind of covered that touches the actor with some kind of insulation material, just to keep it soft so the actor doesn't get hurt. At first, my plan was to do the actor's hands, but quickly I realized that the proportions for how big I made the arms, it just wasn't going to allow for that. So I had to move to a different idea of the actor will be puppeteering them from the elbows, and I'd figure that out later, how to make it comfortable for the actor. Now, it is going to be in front of an LED wall, so that means a lot of light can bleed through the fabric. So to stop that, it's just kind of covered in cardboard. The top of the hood is all cardboard, and then its back is also cardboard, so it'll help stop some light bleed. That bar that's kind of above my head, that is that is the way that it mounts onto its rack. So that way the actor can kind of back up into this little mechanism and set straight down, unbuckle themselves real fast, and they can just step right out. And so again, that's covered in that insulation material, so it also is quiet backstage. That's the other part of it. Got everything in painted black, so any sins in the fabric itself, it'll kind of help mask that if any of it does pop through. And then the next step was to kind of figure out the hands, and the hands are actually made out of it's just a basic plywood hand. It's like 1/2-inch plywood that I made the palm out of, and then the fingers themselves are PEX pipe, the same blue pipe that you use for houses. So I used a heat gun to warm it up and just kind of bend it into the positions that I wanted it to, and then just mounted it with screws directly onto the half ply hands. And then for the elbows, I basically made 2 pieces of 3/4-inch ply that are glued together, cut out with a jigsaw in a comfortable hand shape, sanded it to hell so it's super smooth, and then it's just painted black. And then it's actually mounted onto a dowel that is supporting the arm. I did end up, because I changed the way the mechanism's being run, instead of the hands being the actor's hands, and since they're puppeteer hands, that means a lot of pressure is going to be on the elbow joint and the shoulder joint of the puppet. So because the actors are going to be resting their hands a lot when they're at ease, kind of around their neck height, because that's what's comfortable. So that meant I had to change out some hardware because it just wasn't able to hold up to the amount of pressure. So it's basically just held together with a series of eye screws, but I got just heavier duty ones that can take 75 pounds of pressure, so it can't fail. At least it limits the possibility of it failing. So from there, got everything painted black, and really just made sure everything was hit really hard. And then got the kind of scary part, which is the draping. So it's basically 2 layers of fabric. One is a solid black that's just meant for overall masking and just to kind of be, give it its actual form. And then the other part is a kind of sheer textured material that has a little bit of flow to it. And that's the material that we're actually going to be distressing a little bit. So even when it's distressed, it still doesn't show the actor. So first did a couple videos of it without any distressing, anything like that. And very quickly realized how prevalent my arms were while I was operating the puppet. They kind of stand out like a very albino sore thumb. So that was the next solution of, okay, we need to figure out how to mask the actor's arms because they're going to be visible. And I kind of figured the best way with that was to just do it with additional fabric that kind of hung down more from like the armpits of the creature. That just kind of helped, shroud it. And again, the actor will be in black long sleeves, so you won't see it pretty much anyway. And at that point, there is some level of suspension of disbelief that hopefully the audience is just okay with. So all the fabric is basically tacked on by hand onto the creature. So if for some reason it's outside, it probably shouldn't be, but if for some reason it is, the fabric's not going to disconnect. So it's connected, and the shoulder pieces that hang, so the shoulders are individual, tacked on, and I just did a real fast whip stitch around just to kind of keep it from moving, and that's on both shoulders. And everything else after that was just kind of individually tacked on to itself or tacked onto the base frame. The nice thing about using cardboard is I was able to kind of push that needle through and tack everything to the cardboard. It's attached to the frame when needed. The shoulders, since they're a mesh material that's a food cover, that's a really easy way to have stuff tacked into there. So the shoulders are probably the strongest point when it comes to fabric, and everything else just kind of exists from there. So really happy with how it turned out. Played around for a little bit of having, some LED eyes, which were cool, but the LEDs I got just weren't strong enough to peer through the fabric. It's more important, I think, for the puppet to look like it is a mystery of what's underneath there than to have LED eyes, as cool as they would have been. And then for the hands, since I didn't want to go through the mechanism, the more movement we add, the more problems and more possibilities for stuff to break there are, and that's the last thing you want in a show is the lack of control. So instead just gave each hand a different gesture. So the right hand is more of a pointing gesture and the left hand is just more of an open palm. So he can gesture with one hand or he can point down at a headstone with the other. So with that, that's kind of the basic view of how this thing comes together. I'm gonna throw a little commercial that our theater had of what it looks like, so you can see what it looks like under lights and stage presence, and hopefully you all like it. So that's how we did it. Any suggestions on how you would change anything, feel free to drop comments below. But hopefully this helps solve a couple issues for some of you folks out there. Cost-wise, it did get a little expensive. Unfortunately, I just didn't have any stock anything. This is a very new theater that's producing shows by themselves, so a lot of the materials had to be purchased ahead of time. So the black fabric was purchased ahead of time, but I think overall the camping backpack was like $90. All the stock materials probably another $100, and then if you are really smart about what you get, the fabric that can come in for like $50. So altogether, the puppet's probably going to be, because hardware gets expensive real fast, you're probably looking at between $300 and $500. But if you build it strong, you build it the right way, you take your time, that puppet, if you're doing the show multiple years, it'll last you for a while. And more importantly, it'll fit and adjust to different actors. So any size person from my height, which is 6'1", to someone who is smaller, like 6 inches smaller, 5 foot, 6, 5'7", or even way slender than I am, because I have a couple pounds put on me, it'll fit them. So hopefully this helps anyone out there, and please enjoy the commercial with some production value of what the puppet looks like. Thanks.